I'm known to go green, but generally speaking, I'm an orange sleeve kind of guy normally.
We see the handshake, great sportsman conduct. And here we go, Luke Smythe, the 25th seed in Swiss, is on Ruby and Amethyst up against Harvey Parker, the 8th seed on Amber and Emerald. It's Baker's prediction to win the tournament versus my prediction to win the tournament, Ross.
And one of you, it could well be right. I still feel decent about my prediction. I think between the four of us here, we got a good quartet of predictions. Of course, you know, that Amethyst Emerald deck could trip us up and make us all wrong. Let's worry about that later. Harvey, of course, gets to go first here if they want to, and will get to go first in the next round as well.
Not the best start from Harvey there, as they've just fumbled the card a little bit and I think maybe revealed it slightly to their opponent. It was a cricky. All good. But it's just interesting being on this stage. It's definitely a bit of a different environment compared with playing in the main hall. You've got those soundproof headphones on. You've got the lights and the cameras on you. Of course, Harvey, as a content creator, might have a little bit of an edge in that sense that they're used to having people watch them play.
Yeah, absolutely. You're used to being on show. You're used to having people listening to what you say. And that kind of does help to settle the nerves a little bit here. But they're not just noise-cancelling headphones. We've got some actual white noise in there as well, which can occasionally be something that it takes some getting used to. So only one card mulligan from Harvey. Only one card kept from Harvey.
Yeah, so Harvey here had no Prince John in the opening hand, and I think Prince John is just such an important card against Ruby Amethyst. It has ward, it can just stick around on the board for such a long time. You have, Be King Undisputed is often the best way for Ruby Amethyst to deal with Prince John, but I'm fairly certain Luke Smythe without any copies of that. So I like to see Harvey mulliganing very heavily. They did keep Ariel as the one card in hand, and I wonder if it might have actually been even better to just go all out and just get rid of all 7 and try and find that Prince John. They haven't found Prince John in their hand here, and they are certainly lacking a little bit of an early curve, although that Hidden Cove could be a nice turn 1 play. It's going to be You're Welcome into the Inkwell, and it's going to be a pass. Harvey not playing the Hidden Cove on turn 1 despite having 1 ink, which is really interesting, and it's a magic broom for Luke Smythe.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to remember Lady Tremaine is in a deck for Luke Smythe, so that could be an answer to your Prince John later on. Magic Broom, great turn 1 for Luke and Harvey. Hidden Cove, if you play it too early, it can be vulnerable. You can save it in your hand, potentially to use for ink later if you need. So there are reasons not to play it turn 1. Here we ink, we don't talk about Bruno, and we play Ursula. So we get to look at the hand and discard a song.
Now, Brawl is not a song card, so Ursula's missed, and it's a really good start for Luke Smythe. They're looking pretty happy and content with how this one has started out. No turn 1 play for Harvey, and then the turn 2, while it gets information, does not discard a song. And look at that, Luke Smythe, a turn later, draws into that Be Prepared, which I'm sure Harvey would love to have discarded with that Ursula.
Would love to have. We see the quest here. Sometimes you quest early with Magic Broom, so you can play another character and then banish it and draw a card. That is always an option here. Have you spotted anything in the hand which makes a great turn 2 play? We've got a Maui, but that's not going to do it yet.
There is a snake in there, I think, which is often what we might see.
Oh,
snake with that 3/3 stat line, 3 strength, pretty important against Harvey's deck with cards like the Muses, as well as Under the Sea as threats later on. And those cards deal with characters of 2 strength or less. So the Madam Mim snake having 3 strength can make it pretty difficult for Harvey to deal with.
So we don't banish it, we instead bump it back to your hand using Madam Mim Snake, but of course can be played in the future, get some more lore, have some fun, and the Maui did of course get inked.
Yep, and we've got here Harvey with the Muses, Diablo, Kida, Under the Sea, Hidden Cove, and Ariel in hand. Of course, that Hidden Cove could have come down on turn 1, but I like Harvey's decision to just hold on to it. Just because you're not going to play it right now doesn't mean they had to ink it, but they do now decide after not playing it to ink it. And that's the beautiful thing about keeping that Hidden Cove in hand and not inking it. You're not able to add it into the inkwell. Ariel, it was kept in the mulligan. Terrible news for Harvey because I think that is an Ariel miss. This card, which he kept as the sole card from the mulligan, has let him down here. Ariel not hitting a song.
No, you have to look at the top 4 cards, find a song, pop it into your hand, but there is no song, so you miss off the Ursula, you miss off the Ariel. Harvey cannot be feeling great about either of those, so we add some ink, we play a Sisu, Luke playing pretty fast passes straight back to Harvey, but the more cards Harvey's got in hand, the more strength that Sisu's gonna have.
Absolutely. Harvey draws here into You Have Forgotten Me, a first chapter amber action which can discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand. Luke Smythe, fully aware of the threat of You Have Forgotten Me, and is just going to want to make sure that they keep lots of cards in hand so they have some agency over what gets discarded. You Have Forgotten Me gets inked, and in comes the Muses.
Yeah, when you play a song, you get to get rid of a 2 strength or lower character. It is a fantastic card in any deck where you're playing a bunch of songs, and it's why things like Snake and Sisu, assuming there's enough cards in hand, of course, they'll be nice. They can avoid the Muses.
Yep.
Give your opponent no good targets. Always fun.
And another thing about the Muses, it has ward, so it's very difficult for Luke to remove. They're not going to be able to brawl it, but it's also, with that 4 cost, pretty good at singing Under the Sea. And it is going to be a quest for the Madam Mim Snake and the Sisu. Of course, Harvey's Ariel on the board here has Singer 5, so an Under the Sea Sing Together is online here potentially for Harvey if they so desire.
Yeah.
At the moment, it is Luke Smythe, who is at 5 lore, I believe. A little bit of confusion here with the players on just how to track the lore, so we'll get that sorted. And it is Luke Smythe in the lead on lore as it stands.
Yeah, for anyone who's wondering, we've got a little iPad there that you can use to just to track the lore. We have to do it when we do our caster games and our pack battles, and I always forget every single time, without fail, to track the lore properly. But I always get there in the end.
Yeah, and don't panic, everyone. You're not missing anything. We're just making sure that we're all sorted and we can track the lore properly moving forward. And once the players are ready to commence, we will be going back with them. And in fact, the players are ready, Ross.
Right now, let's go. Let's do this. Luke's on 5 lore, Harvey's on no lore. I don't think there's any real targets for Under the Sea right now.
Nope.
Both the Madam Mim Snake and the Sisu have enough strength that Under the Sea won't get them. But if I'm playing this deck, I want to have Ariel and the Muses down, because then if there's ever a board, I can play it. But here comes the brawl, takes out Ariel, and now things get a bit more awkward for Harvey.
Yeah, and Luke usually at 4 ink as a Ruby Amethyst player, you just play the Rabbit, and Luke does have that in hand, but perhaps fearing that the Rabbit plays into Under the Sea, Ariel with that Singer 5 decides to play a slightly slower turn and goes for the Brawl. And this is why I love the Magic Brooms. 1 ink spare, put a Magic Broom down, it can quest for 1, and then you can draw a card with it down the line. It looks like Harvey goes for Diablo, a 3-cost character. No questing from the Muses or the Ursula as it stands, as the Magic Broom quests for 1, putting Luke up to 6 lore. It's a great start here for Luke, despite being the player going second.
Yeah, I'm liking this. We get Merlin Rabbit go down, draw a card. You could banish Magic Broom to draw another card, which you are choosing to do. So play down the Rabbit, draw yourself 2 cards. I love this from Luke. And now we are always singing friends on the other side with Sisu here for another couple of cards. And that is giving Luke a lot of options in hand with which to work.
Yeah, it certainly is, and this is not going to plan for Harvey. Often, as the Amber Emerald player, you're looking to discard your opponent's cards as quickly as possible. But Luke now, with the Rabbit, the Magic Broom, the Friends, has an abundance of cards in hand, and Harvey's going to have a real hard time discarding every last card. They do draw into Sir Hiss, so Harvey's hand currently is Sir Hiss, the Muses, Kida, and an Under the Sea there as well.
Yeah, when Harvey gets high enough on ink, you do then have the option of playing Kida to lower everyone's strength by 3 and then Under the Sea. But that does take a lot of ink to pull off, or does it?
It might be about to happen, Ross. Under the Sea has been sung. Diablo, Ursula, and the Muses. Kida setting everything's strength to 3 less, and they are not going to go into the discard pile. They're going to go Under the Sea at the bottom of the deck.
Under the deck.
Amazing. That's some nice singing.
No, I'm not going to do much singing on these streams, I'm afraid, but I do like that one. That one makes me happy. Of course, I said it takes a lot of ink, but when you're singing, you can exert your characters to save the ink, and that is a combo. It's a combo we see a lot in these, what is often referred to as sing-together decks. Keyed to go and lower the strength, and at that point, everything is strength 2 or less, and Under the Sea acts as a board wipe, a pseudo be prepared.
Yep, and I didn't catch if Harvey did take the Diablo trigger. I would assume it did happen. The hand is currently the Muses and Sir Hiss. I actually did see Harvey miss a Diablo trigger in their previous round, so it's definitely something they're going to be wanting to make sure that you don't forget about. It's easier said than done. You think the Diablo trigger is one of the easiest things, but it's very easy to forget when you're focusing on everything else. But Harvey going to be wanting to make sure that Diablo trigger comes through. As Medusa does remove it, that's no longer going to be something to consider. Luke at 7 lore, Harvey without a single lore on the board as of yet, Ross.
We do see this, though, from these sing-together decks. They can be very slow to get going in terms of the lore race. Their goal is wreck your hand, build up a better board, worry about lore later. A lot of the time, not all the time. Problem is, because Luke's been able to build up a big hand, Harvey has done a good job now getting rid of the cards on the board. Now Harvey needs to try and get rid of the cards in the hand, but there does come a point where you need to start weaving in some of this lore gain. You know, whether it's questing with Kida or whatever, you need to start building up some lore. We do go up to 3 with Harvey now, which is nice. I mean, that's Kida and Ursula then questing. But you still need to, you know, keep up in that race, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Harvey has in hand the Diablo. So going to be able to peek at their opponent's hand, and they have now seen that Be Prepared. I mentioned they would have loved to have discarded it with Ursula. Well, Luke can ink going to 7 this turn, but that Be Prepared is very much safe in their hand. Harvey, no bare necessities, no Ursula Deceiver available to discard it. Madame Medusa's going to quest. A card's going to go into the inkwell, and it's going to be 7 ink spent on the Be Prepared, wiping the board. And it's back on over to Harvey, who needs a big card off the top, finds a Sudden Chill.
Yeah, Sudden Chill, I mean, it's nice for a little bit of hand disruption. You make your opponent discard a card. But again, we've not seen that Prince John yet. Prince John's not hit the board. Now, if it had, it would have just been Be Prepared away. But that is when your opponent discards a card, you draw a card.
Yep.
And you got Diablo, and your opponent draws a card, you draw a card. Right now, Harvey has neither of them, which means they're a little bit behind. We do see that Sir Hiss, which is nice, but it's not the perfect card right now.
No, absolutely. And Harvey could have also inked and played the Muses, but they did see Luke's hand a turn or so ago and saw that legendary Sisu, which could, of course, remove the Muses. In comes a goat for Luke, which is going to get them an extra lore. And in comes the Queen's Castle, Mirror Chamber, a very strong location, gaining 2 lore per turn. Harvey has now found Ursula Deceiver, but I fear it might be a little later than they would have hoped. Only 2 cards in hand for Luke right now. Harvey could try to discard one of them with that Sudden Chill, but is not going to be able to discard both.
No, and that Queen's Castle seems like a very good play right now, because Harvey does not have the board to deal with it as it stands at the moment. We do see free damage going on with Sir Hiss, but we go back to Luke's turn, and you gain the 2 lore from that castle. It's going to take Harvey some time to deal with that, and while Harvey's trying to deal with it, that lore is just ticking up very nicely indeed.
Yep, it absolutely is. And speaking of lore ticking up, another goat found by Luke, as well as that Madam in Fox. There's the potential to do some goat bouncing. Sisu, of course, a card Harvey is aware that Luke is holding in their hand and is trying to play around it a little bit. Harvey was hoping to find a song with that Ursula and then would be able to sing Sudden Chill with the Sir Hiss to remove Sisu from the hand. But Sisu, safe and sound, hits the board and Ursula Deceiver is banished.
Yeah, it's not the most use I've ever seen for Sisu. You're not getting Sir Hiss because it's a free strength, but you get Ursula and you get a big body on the board. 5-4, quest for free. I will take that. And even moves into the library because that at the beginning of your turn, if you've got a character in the library, hey, draw a card.
Well, Prince John has been discovered. One card, I believe, in hand for Luke, which I think is a Madam Mim Fox. And being able to play the Prince John for 3, the Sir Hiss could sing the Sudden Chill. Alternatively, Harvey could spend this last 2 ink on it. Of course, Prince John, whenever your opponent discards a card you draw, it's going to be 2 ink spent on the Sudden Chill. Harvey is going to draw a Painting the Roses Red, which could be sung by Sir Hiss, but Sir Hiss may be forced to challenge the Queen's Castle Mirror Chamber. 2 lore going to be gained by the castle, as well as that extra card drawn thanks to having Sisu in the castle. So Luke is going to have 2 cards in hand to work with. It's a Chernobog's Followers and it's a Flynn Rider Frenemy. Probably not what Luke was wanting off the top there, Ross.
No, but honestly, at this point, I'm just playing everything. Like, if I keep cards in hand, they're getting discarded. If they get discarded, Prince John's drawing cards.
Yep.
So if I'm Luke at this point, I'm just emptying my hand. I'm up to 14 lore. I'm feeling all right about this. I'm just going to play every card I get and hope that I'm close enough that it's going to work. And actually, it's looking pretty good. You've got to go, oh, they've all gone into the castle here. Castle's obviously going to go down, but if Sisu's there, you win the game. If Flynn Rider's there, you wouldn't win the game because you'd lose the Sisu. So you've got to get rid of Sisu, and you can't get rid of Sisu. Luke wins game 1, and Harvey is now on the back foot, because if there is a game 3, Luke will be going first. It's great if you win game 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Amber Emerald, a very strong deck when it all comes together, but you can see a bit of a weakness there. Without the Prince John, it can just fizzle out a little bit. I think Luke did a really good job of making sure to draw lots of cards in the early game, but Harvey, mulligan 6, a pretty aggressive mulligan, but still was not rewarded with finding that early curve. I do, again, small difference, but when I saw Harvey keeping that aerial, I did wonder, would it be better maybe to just go for the full 7? It can be a little bit reckless. Aerial was the card kept. Unfortunately for Harvey, it did end up missing, which certainly didn't help their cause. It could be very, very different in game number 2, and I think Prince John is that card Harvey is going to be really looking for.
I agree entirely, and there was a bit of bad luck. Remember, we saw Ursula Deceiver played, didn't get a hit, and then the next card drawn was Be Prepared, which later came down and made a huge difference in the game. If that was just one card off, and then it gets discarded by Ursula, then that game probably plays out a bit differently. So, if you're Harvey, yeah, it's despondent, and again, best of 3, the loser gets to choose who goes first in the next game. So winning game 1 is huge because it means you go first in game 3. That's going to annoy me if I'm Harvey, knowing that I've essentially lost the ability to go first that I had in that first game. But I'm also thinking I didn't find Prince John. I whiffed the Ursula, I whiffed the aerial, the Be Prepared wrecked my board.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like that was an almost worst case scenario. Game 2's got to go better.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the Ursula. I mean, if you think about them, they kind of arrived at the wrong time. The Ursula on turn 2 came through 1 turn before Be Prepared was drawn, and then the Ursula, I think, was drawn on turn 8, 1 turn after Be Prepared was played. So those Ursulas were just either side of the Be Prepared, which did not help Harvey out one bit. So we are going to be going on to game number 2 of this best of 3. Harvey lost game 1, so is going to be able to go first in game number 2. Luke Smythe, 1 game away, Ross, from that European Championships qualification.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's only a couple of months away at this point. Everybody is, or 2.5 months maybe, but everyone's excited about it regardless. So
Prince John's in hand, Ross.
Oh, that's very, very nice. We needed that last game, and you know, Luke's not really going after Harvey's hand like Harvey's going after Luke's hand, so that means it is going to be available. So you keep the Prince John, and then it's a case of what else do you need, what else do you keep?
Harvey, at the moment, the 3 cards on the table is You Have Forgotten Me, Prince John, and Diablo Legendary. At the moment, they have another Prince John in hand, so they drew 2. Sudden Chill and Aerial might be going back. Harvey also considering getting rid of the Diablo. So at the moment, Harvey, looks like they're holding on to the Prince John, You Have Forgotten Me, which is probably going to be their turn 3, turn 4. Maybe wanting to find a little bit of an earlier curve. I would be pretty interested in seeing an argument for Harvey to keep the sudden chill here. I think being able to get that sudden chill and singing it early on could be really interesting. But 5 cards mulligan for Harvey, despite having that Prince John. I think the mulligans with these Emerald decks, Ross, are so tricky. That legendary Diablo, whether you risk trying to shift it in or not, adds so many questions into the equation. And I find some of these Emerald decks, the mulligans, the most tricky in all of Lorcana.
It's awkward. Like, I really want to shift in, so I want to find the 1-cost Diablo early. And I didn't have that, so I want to get that from the mulligan.
Yep.
But the thing that annoys me, assuming you don't have Cove changes things. But I play Diablo, I discard an action card, I shift into Diablo, has a lot of cards, and my opponent goes, ha, bro.
Yeah.
And then I lose my Diablo. And that's a pain. That kind of puts me off going for Diablo unless I can hide him inside the Cove.
Okay, it looks like there is a couple of Prince Johns in the hand for Harvey. There is also a legendary Diablo. It was quite an aggressive mulligan, but still no turn 1 or turn 2 that obviously stands out here for Harvey. So it might be a little bit of a slow start. They also have a bunch of 3-cost uninkables, 2 Prince Johns and 1 Diablo. So it's an ink and a pass from Harvey. Luke Smythe, though, with that magical broom, and it's a magical turn 1 play. Harvey still without a obvious turn 2 play. No Sir Hiss, no Ursula Deceiver. Not ideal at all.
Now, that was your argument for keeping the sudden chill to give that turn 2 play, but it's not there. So
there is actually a sudden chill tucked in there, Ross.
Oh, there is a
What you'd really love to do is play a 2-cost character, then on turn 3 you play the Prince John, and then you can sing sudden chill to then draw. But Harvey going to hard cast sudden chill again. Not ideal.
No, not at all.
But not bad. You play 1 card, your opponent discards a card.
Yeah, it's not the turn 2 play you want to make.
Yep.
You have better turn 2 plays, but with the hand, it's the best one you can make. Otherwise, you're just inking until turn 3, and that feels like you're just getting a bit too far behind. Here comes Madam Mim Snake after a quest with the broom. I mean, that's exactly what Luke did back in game 1.
Yeah, Luke feeling very confident and comfortable. They've been here before. Painting the roses red into the inkwell. There he is. Prince John has entered the building. The centerpiece card in many ways for Harvey's deck, particularly in this matchup. It has ward, so it can only be targeted by your opponent in challenges. And don't expect that to happen anytime soon. Harvey just going to leave Prince John ready and waiting, making the most of that ward ability.
Yeah, don't exert it. Leave it with ward. Make it very, very, very difficult to actually take off of the board. You need something like a Be Prepared or a Lady Tremaine with no other characters on the board. That's the level we're talking about to get rid of that Prince John here.
Yeah, Harvey with another Prince John in hand. Also has that uninkable Diablo. So 2 uninkables there. 3 inkables available. Kida, which is the card into the inkwell. Bare Necessities and You Have Forgotten Me still in hand. Goes for the second Prince John. It's a Prince John party.
Your opponent discards a card. You draw 2 cards at this point. I like playing Diablo, but the thing that makes me sad when I have to play Diablo without shifting is I pay 3, I play it, I wait, I quest, and then I start drawing when my opponent draws. Whereas if I shift it after playing Diablo turn 1, it comes in earlier, but here comes a Queen's Castle Mirror Chamber, and I love this because Prince John, firstly, does very little when you challenge, and secondly, you don't want to leave it exerted. So what have we got as an answer?
Prince John's going to sing Bare Necessities, hoping to discard something. Doesn't find it, though. Luke Smythe with 2 rabbits and a Maui, but the You Have Forgotten Me is going to discard 2 of these cards. Harvey was hoping to discard 1 with Bare Necessities, discard the last 2 with You Have Forgotten Me. 2 cards discarded, 4 cards drawn for Harvey. This is why they went for that other Prince John, and they found a Sudden Chill, Ross. They could sing Sudden Chill with this second Prince John to discard the final card in Luke Smythe's hand, and that's what you want to do as Amber Emerald. Whittle your your opponent's hand down to 0.
And of course, it would draw you 2 cards, which would be nice because he's got 3 of the uninkable Diablo in hand. There's the sudden chill. Discards that final card from hand. That Maui goes down. We draw 2 more. And this is what Harvey was talking about. Bat was looking at 4, I should say. Back in game 1, Luke was close enough to victory that you can just play empty-handed. Draw, play, job's a good one. You're going to get over the line. That is not where we are in this game. You do have the Queen's Castle and a couple of characters, but now Harvey's building up a large hand of cards, and Luke's got nout, literally nout.
But they do have a Queen's Castle, a Sisu, and a Snake on the board. Harvey's going to ink Sudden Chill. 2 lore gained for the Queen's Castle puts Luke up to 7 lore. 4 ink to play with. Are they able to do so? Well, the Prince Johns have now been removed. Harvey, though, getting a lot of value from them. They both move into the castle.
Yeah, that was always a downside of exerting them to sing, was the fact that they were going to be vulnerable. But the hope is that you've done enough. You got a very you drew like 6 cards with them.
Yep.
And you completely ruined your opponent's hand. So now it's time to go, right, what else can we do here? It might be time to play Diablo, but we have some other options as well. We could play Kida, I suppose, but not getting the most out of it.
Queen's Castle, really impactful here for Luke. They did draw 1 card, of course, for turn. I can tell you it's a be prepared, which is why we didn't see it being inked. Of course, it's uninkable, and it costs 7 ink. But with 2 cards in the Queen's Castle, Luke might be drawing 3 cards at the start of their next turn. In comes the double Diablo for Harvey, but that Queen's Castle is absolutely carrying Luke Smythe at this moment in time. It's another 2 lore and 2 cards drawn as well.
He's going to be up to 12 lore at the end of this turn if he wants to be. That's kind of amazing. Given how bad his board is, given how bad his hand has been, the fact that Luke can just kind of casually get to 12 lore here, and he's got a goat in hand. There we go. Now we're up to 12. We got a goat in hand, which can come down and grab some cheeky lore. That goat's going to get you 2 lore minimum.
Yep. Also, Luke has the option of taking a Brawl to remove a Diablo, but nope. Not interested in wasting time removing your opponent's cards when you can just ink the Brawl, move the goat into the castle, and Harvey going to be loving the look of a top deck of a Cricky here, which would add extra strength to those Diablos and would remove the Queen's Castle. Maybe you're welcome to deal with the Queen's Castle, but none of those currently available. And it looks like the Queen's Castle is going to be sticking around for another turn, which would mean 3 cards drawn from the Queen's Castle potentially.
That's basically game. He needs 7 lore, 2 from the Queen's Castle, 2 from Sisu, 1 from the Snake, and then when the goat goes down, and then 1 from the goat. So, yeah, that's 7 lore. He's got 7 lore on board. Wait, no. Sorry, he's got 6 lore on board, and then 1 when the goat goes down.
Right.
So that kind of gets you over the hump to the 7. Once you get up to 19 lore of a goat on board, you're like, if you remove it, I win. If you don't remove it, I quest. Oh, and by the way, when I quest, I win. So there's, if you count the goat leaving as a lore, which I do, that's basically game on board for Luke here. That castle has got to go.
And this is the beautiful thing about a Queen's Castle. In Luke's deck, they didn't put the library in the deck. As good as the library can be, Queen's Castle, it can just win you some games all on its own. And that is exactly what seems to be happening here in the second game. Despite Harvey getting that You Have Forgotten Me, the sudden chill to discard Luke's entire hand, the Queen's Castle has been replenishing that hand while continuing to gain lore and be really difficult to deal with.
Yeah, I started this match, I was saying how I've dropped the Queen's Castle from a lot of decks because I really like the library. Now, Luke's making me look a little bit silly. That has been the difference in both of these games. Yep. It has literally been Queen's Castle. That has been the difference in game 1 and game 2. Harvey's in a bad position here. He's down 13 lore to 0. He doesn't seem to have an answer on board for that castle right now. And if that castle stays around, Luke is potentially gaining 6 lore next turn with a goat on board.
Harvey exerting 2 ink here, it seems. Just having a second thought. The hand currently for Harvey, it's a Sir Hiss. There is a Kida, Under the Sea, the Muses, and that 3rd legendary Diablo. It's going to be 2 ink for Sir Hiss. So 3 evasive cards down for Harvey. Are they going to make it a 4th? They are not. They're going to go for the Muses instead. No songs to sing, but the Diablo forced to remove the Madam Mim snake while removing itself. That is going to deny an extra card draw from Luke, and of course deny the Madam Mim snake questing next turn, which keeps them in the game. And then 2 damage sunk into the Queen's Castle with 7 willpower, so 5 more damage needed. Perhaps Hiss and Diablo could tag team it in the next turn. Luke up to 15 lore, Ross, before even questing.
Going to go to 18 when he quests. 5 damage needed, 5 lore gained. And maybe Luke's got a more sophisticated play than me right now, but when I get to this point in the game, I'm just like, quest, quest, quest.
Yep. Harvey draws for Diablo, draws into a second copy of Under the Sea. There's the goat. 16 lore. The double quest takes Luke 1 lore away from the European Championships qualification.
There's Chernobog's followers there for next turn as well, but I don't think Harvey can win from here. You've got to get rid of the goat, but if you get rid of the goat, you win. So
Under the Sea, though, Ross. Is it possible?
Under the Sea would do it.
There's the Keeda. 5 lore. 5 ink spent.
Goat still leaves the board, so it still gets lore.
It does still gain lore, you're right. And that's the game. Under the Sea goat for the win for Luke. Harvey can't stop the goats.
That's my point. When the goats come, the situation there, you have to get rid of the goats.
Yep.
Or you lose.
Wow.
You can't get rid of the goats or you lose. That doesn't work, unfortunately. Luke takes a 2-0 victory, moves on to top 16, and gets the invite to that Continental Championship.